It's likening that throwing a pair of, Chuck Taylors up over the power line, and those two shoes being like the couple. And after all these years, they're still hanging in there like Chuck Taylors on a power line. It was just such a good rural street everywhere metaphor that I felt it was so relatable. And I've seen plenty of those scenes, even in Australia. People throw shoes over the power lines in Australia, I was driving to the studio to write with a couple of guys. I love writing with Chase McGill, Jerry Flowers, and Greg Wells. And in my head, I just heard this flailing bass note and the so this whole melody formed, but zero idea what the song was about. And Chase McGill had this lyric for this song called Chuck Taylors, and he had no melody. I said, let me see if that works on this, and the two just did that. It was crazy. We were holding hands barefoot in the grass, with the red sunset still warm on our backs. It's got a beautiful, very rural setting already. Just the opening line of we were holding hands, barefoot in the grass, for me sets up an innocence. There's a timelessness about it. It's not really of a time, it's not really of a place, it's just an innocence. Chase is very poetic. He's got a great way of painting a feeling in his lyrics. The sky looked like an ocean, and the water looked like glass, and forever meant tomorrow. We both wondered if we would last. There's something larger than the little town that the couple is in, starting with the sky looking like an ocean. It's just infinite. Obviously, this town's nowhere near the ocean. It's probably on a lake. But the sky looked like an ocean and the water looked like glass. And forever meant tomorrow, which is what it feels like. I mean, I remember that feeling very vividly, like, God, if we can last till tomorrow, that's like forever. It's one of the only quick, fastest ways to explain the intensity of how I feel about something is to go, oh, this is forever. It's forever, man. We're gonna last forever. That's how intense it is. I know that feeling so well. You were leaving town, I didn't want to face it. Love just doesn't grow in two different places. Us burning out, I couldn't take it, so we tied a double knot in those faded white laces. The rhythm was so imperative for setting up the energy that could launch us into the chorus. The section also has a tension to it, because that's what's happening in the conversation. The chords go from a 4-chord to a minor, so the minor has tension. So there's like release and possibility, and then there's tension. And then it launches into the chorus, which is what they're doing with the shoes. We're launching them up. My size 12 and your size 7, we threw them straight up to heaven high in the small town sky. I believe Chase said, my size 12 and your size 7, we threw them straight up to heaven. I think that's all he had. There wasn't a high. The melody I had was da ba da 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 da. So I needed an open vowel. Heaven wasn't as good as high, so it was a better vowel. That's where you get songwriter craft coming into something where it's got to be singable but also make sense. It was up in the air, are they gonna make it? Never come down, never gonna come on time. Yeah, you and I, we're still hanging in there, just like Chuck Taylors on a power line. The metaphor of the Chuck Taylors representing the couple was just beautiful and so relatable, and I hadn't heard that before. I remember every time I used to see those hanging up on a power line, I'd be like, I was thinking about somebody walking away with bare feet, maybe regretting that. In between the silence, you and me talked all night. I made you laugh and accidentally made you cry. When I said I wouldn't blame you if the sunrise meant goodbye, you said, how dare you, baby, who would not to try? I loved writing with Chase because he does come with a realism in a way that felt very fresh to me. When he said, in between the silence, you and me talked all night, when he first said it to me, I was like, what do you mean? If you talked all night, there wouldn't be any silence. And he's like, well, nobody talks all night. If you have a conversation with someone for hours and hours and hours and hours and night, there's always these periods of just nothing being said. And that nothing being said was the thing that this couple didn't want to deal with, which was her having to leave. And sitting right there on the hoodie of satin, bright as the red on your flower dress pattern, a light went off, and that's when it happened. You were gonna be mine and nothing else mattered. My first thought was that the car was bright red, like the flowers on her dress, but it's actually part of the next line. Bright as the red on your flower dress pattern, a light went off. I've got an idea of how to express my utter devotion to you. We're gonna throw these sneakers up over the power line and hope that that represents us. I love that we name-checked a satin because it's such an obscure model make. What hell is a satin, you know? And there's a Southern thing about it, which I really love too. You know, when I moved to Nashville, I saw satins everywhere, and now I don't see them anywhere. I don't know what happened to them. They all just disappeared. It's like sitting right there on the hoodie of Chevy. I've heard that a million times, and it wouldn't have registered to me. I wouldn't have seen a car. It would have just flown by as like 101 car choice. But to be sitting right there on the hoodie of satin, I'm like, oh, I'm back in. I'm in the song, you know. The very ending of Chuck Taylor's has a recurring background part that says, we're gonna make it, yes, we're gonna make it now. Gonna make it, yes, we're gonna make it now. Gonna make it, yes, we're gonna make it now. Gonna make it now, gonna make it out. It doesn't say now the last time, it's just gonna make it out. It sounds like now every time, but there's intent for the very last word being we're gonna make it out. I really like that deceptive little moment at the very end of the song.